A longtime client of mine was recently blindsided by this executive candidate who turned down a job offer due to relocation. It really got me thinking about how do you truly vet a candidate for relocation, especially if you're going to invest that much time and energy into the recruiting process and go that far with it. It also got me thinking about the context of job offer acceptance rate. So I did a little web searching, found some recent statistics where the typical acceptance rate of job offers on the high end can be like 80%, on the low end more like 60%. Some of the other recent stats, it showed that in 2015, only 2% of Americans ended up moving from another state or even another country. So you take those two percentages into context, you really see it's a narrow margin to get somebody to accept your job offer and relocate. So you really got to do it right. So I thought it would be helpful for us to think a little bit about tips for unpacking the relocation challenge. Maybe to set the stage a little bit, two thoughts. The X's and O's of relocation are obviously important, but the trump card is really lifestyle. Another thing, don't try to figure out relocation all at once. It's a series of conversations, a very nuanced discussion. You're looking for little puzzle pieces along the way that you can put together and really start to see the bigger picture over time. So with that said, 4 tips for unpacking the relocation challenge. Number 1, peel back the stick factor of their current location. Are they originally from the area? Is their spouse from the area? Do they have extended family in the area? Things like that. You have young kids that are used to seeing grandparents. You really need to see how possible it is to unstick them from that location. One thing you can do as you're going through the resume and looking at backgrounds and talking about job skills and experience is understanding its position and where is it located. You look for patterns of have they relocated before, how far, what was the degree of change between these different locations, and really try to assess like have they changed before and can they do it again, and what's your probability that you can do it successfully. Number 2 tip for unpacking the relocation challenge. Determine if the stick factor of your new location matches their interests. This is where you get into hobbies, what they think of their home. Some people really like their home architecture, their current commute, work-life balance, things like that. When you think about major cities, you could have New York and LA, 2 major metropolitan areas, but very, very different in so many ways. You even have places like Denver, which has different amenities and attractions, very different from somewhere like Miami. So you can't always assume that similar equals the same. So that's where you think about what is it they enjoy about their current work-life balance, some of their hobbies, what do they really get into, and how do they prioritize these things versus work. You have to consider things like commute. Are you looking at city to suburban? Is it via car? Is it via train? You consider these different things again to try to find a pattern to see how the new place might feel like the old place. 3rd tip for unpacking the relocation challenge. Remember, you relocate a family, not an employee. If you have kids in school, they might want to postpone the relocation until the summertime, maybe the winter holidays. Older kids are always going to be much more difficult to relocate. And when you think about the relocation scenario, we often hear from candidates, they request if they can move ahead of the family, take a couple months, and then they'll follow behind. That can be very tricky. You get into situations where you have a new employee, especially at a leadership level. They're on their own for a couple months, might start to get cold feet, you miss the family. You might be replacing that person before you know it. You also have to consider the other job in the house. The spouse is, in some cases, is making more money. They might have a much tougher job market, so when they consider moving and replacing 2 jobs, it might not work out for them. Number 4, last tip for unpacking the relocation challenge. Be brave, suggest reasons not to relocate. It sounds tricky and it can be a little counterintuitive, but what you want to do is test the candidate early on and play devil's advocate. Give them reasons or inquire softly about reasons that it might not work out. See how they react, listen to their thought process, and really listen to what they're saying. Another good tip is to ask what their spouse or their extended family or their kids think, because it's almost always a group decision. If you get vague or unspecific answers, it might be the case that the conversation's not happening at home and won't happen until the 11th hour. So we found tips like these to be very useful in working through some very tricky relocations, especially with executive candidates. It's made us more successful, so hopefully they work out for you and help you up your offer acceptance rate of candidates.